Hello everyone. Demonology Warlock is one of the strongest casters in Cataclysm. This video will get you off the ground running with the most important bits of the spec. Make sure to comment below if you have anything else to add. Let's get straight into it. Let's start with the talents. Now, the talents don't have a lot of wiggle room. You basically aren't taking the talents that are for PvP here. Demonic Empowerment isn't that good. We're not taking this at all. It just, for your Felguard, it would remove all stuns, snares. The CC, it doesn't really matter. Improve Health Funnel doesn't help us, neither does Aura of Foreboding. And this is going to be the cookie cutter spec for the Incinerate demo build. Now there's another spec which is the Shadowbolt build where you're using Shadowbolt as your filler instead of Incinerate, and if you want to do that, the only difference would be swapping out the Glyph and swapping into Bane instead of Imp Corruption. Quickly going over the Glyphs, there's 4 Prime Glyphs I think are worth mentioning. Glyph of Corruption for the Shadowbolt spec, which gives you Shadow Trance, similar to Nightfall in the Affliction tree. There's Glyph of Immolate, which just increases your Immolate damage, it's very good. Incinerate for when you're using the Incinerate build, just increasing your filler damage by 5%, and then Glyph of Meta. The rest of the Prime Glyphs aren't exactly that important for Demo. For Major Glyphs, the only one that's worth of note is Glyph of Life Tap, which decreases the GCD by 0.5 seconds. There may be some utility uses for some of these other glyphs, but in terms of overall gameplay, they're not that important. And then the minor glyphs are just quality of life, same as usual for all classes. Let's talk about stat priorities. The number one stat you're going to want is Intellect. Intellect is now the equivalent of our spell power, so big imp procs equals big damage. Next, you're going to want hit rating. You want 17% or 1742 hit rating. Then you want haste to soft caps, mastery, haste again, then crit. Crit is pretty bad for us. Now I want to explain this 3, 4, 5 right here. Now, haste rating, to get an extra tick of Immolate, you need 105 rating. For an extra tick of Corruption, you need 21 rating. So, the gap between 1 and 2 is gigantic. If you don't think you can get to these, then you should just go into Mastery instead, because you're just throwing all this into haste. Sure, it reduces the cast of Incinerate and Shadowbolt, but Mastery gives you much, much more damage in terms of your burst potential, and fights will go much lower as we get more gear and things progress, so Mastery will be more valuable. So, if you have enough haste rating for the second, you go for it. If not, you go into Mastery. This is an example set I have. This is my full Prebis that I'm going to make a video on very shortly, but I wanted to show this off so you can look at your best enchants. I'll leave a link to this in the description below. Alright, let's get into the rotation. What I want to talk about first is what we do out of combat. There's a few things we could do before combat starts, but the one that people seem to be talking about the most is the use of a Mastery set. What is a Mastery set? Now, a Mastery set is snapshotting your Mastery, which increases the damage done while you are in meta, with your meta before the pull starts, and then you swap another set of gear on. That's all it is. It's pretty simple. And you'll be popping your Prepot and any other trinkets, anything else that you have, and just swapping your gear on before combat starts. So, we'll just do a small example of what that will look like. Let's do a 10-second pull timer. Now, we make sure to have our Mastery set on. I have keybinds for these. Soulburn and Soul Harvest at 5 seconds. So you get the shard back, then pot, and then swap, and then go. And you just go for it. Ideally, you will be able to do this before combat starts. I mean, sometimes somebody precasts and get you in combat early, so a lot of the time, unless you trust your raid, it's dangerous to do the Mastery, because I think maybe 40% of pulls, people ask pull before we even start, and it's a big pain in the butt because you won't have all your hit rating, and it won't feel very comfortable. Now, on the other hand, if you aren't doing the Mastery swap pre-pull, and you do not need 3 shards for an entire fight, you can simply pre-pot and precast Incinerate on a pull timer. Say there's a 5-second pull timer, 5, 4, 3, precast, and then it'll go off, boom, it lands, and there you go, combat begins. Now that we talked about pre-combat, let's talk about when combat starts. So the first thing I want to talk about is the infamous pet twisting. Now, what is pet twisting? Pet twisting is taking advantage of using Demon Soul while your Felguard is out. Let's send the Felguard in, and we use our Demon Soul. I have it macro with my Blood Fury since they're both 2-minute cooldowns, so we pop this, and now we get the buff of 15% haste and 10% damage, and now the twist is using Soulburn to get out our Fel Hunter to attack, and we keep this extra haste and damage done from the Felguard. And the reason we do this is because the Fel Hunter hits a lot harder than the Felguard in single target and most scenarios, but the Demon Soul from the Felguard is significantly better than the one we get from the Fel Hunter. Now that we know what pet twisting is, let's get into actual combat rotation. The first thing I want to talk about is the debuffs that you can provide the raid. These can be provided by other classes, but sometimes you just have to keep an eye out and know that it's your responsibility to put up. The first one that you will most likely have to put up is 5% crit, and this is from Shadowbolt or Incinerate, and mages can put this up as well if they precast in the beginning of a fight, but sometimes you just won't get that, so keep an eye out for this one. This is probably going to be your responsibility. The other one is Elements, which a bunch of other classes could put up, but in Cataclysm you can put up a utility curse and a damaging curse, so if you don't see it, just be a champ and put it up, right? Now, let's get into the opener itself. Now, what I like to do is, because we're trying to pet twist as fast as possible, we start out by Fel Storming, by setting the Felguard in. Boom, it goes in. Then we will hit Demon Soul along with Blood Fury, and meta, if we didn't pre-pop it, we will apply our dots, and with all of our procs, we will Doom Guard with as many procs as possible in this opener. Then we will Hand of Gul'dan, Shadow Flame, Immolate as we move in, or you could use Demon Leap to move in. It does a lot of damage. And that's it. And now I want to show you what that looks like all put together.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Now that we have pre-combat and the opener out of the way, let's talk about the maintenance and the rotation. Now, the baseline is keeping your 3 dots on the target, keeping Hand of Gul'dan and Shadow Flame on cooldown, using Molten Core procs when we get them, and using Decimation when we can, and using your cooldowns accordingly, and making sure your debuffs remain on the boss. Now, the fun part is the nuance of this, because in Cataclysm, your dots, when they get to their last tick, you can refresh that last tick and it rolls over into the new tick. Now let's take Doom for example. Doom lasts a minute, you see 10 seconds left. Now you want to get this Doom back up when you have trinket procs. So let me just pot, for example, I have this. Now this new tick that was about to go off, boom, that tick had the power of this Volcanic Potion, and the next minute will have that as well. So it's important to continue to keep your dots up with your trinket procs, your cooldowns and such throughout the entire fight, and you'll notice a large increase in your damage. And that's where the nuance comes into play here. But if you just keep all your dots on cooldown, Hand of Gul'dan, Shadow Flame, and then Incinerate filler or Shadowbolt filler, and use these Molten Core and Decimation procs, you're in for a good time. Now that we have the rotation, before combat, during combat, out of the way, I want to talk about some extra advanced tips and tricks, and I have them compiled here. There's more, but they're listed in my Discord, and I don't have enough time to go into these in extreme detail. I will leave them as comments below as well. I will need to point out that Doomguard snaps your spell power, haste, rating, so not bloodlust, just rating, crit, and only your mastery, but as demo. So your mastery is AF and Destro don't matter for your Doomguard. If you want to pet twist in the middle of a fight, the best practice, because your Fel Hunter does so much damage, is to leave your Fel Hunter out until Demon Soul's about to come off cooldown, and then you hard cast the Felguard mid-fight for 4 to 5 seconds, however long your summon is. And then you quickly Demon Soul, and then you swap your Fel Hunter back out immediately for the most uptime. Your position is very important. You need to be in melee, so thinking about where you are for a fight, like for Magma being in, or for on the Tron defense system being close to the tank, so you can have Shadow Flame, and when it's relevant, Immolation or up, that's going to increase your damage a lot. So your positioning as a Demonology Warlock is probably more important than the majority of classes. Lastly, your Fel Storm opener is only worth it with multiple targets. The sim points towards using Fel Hunter as a better, like getting Fel Hunter out ASAP instead of just Fel Storming on the opener. If there's only one target, it seems to be better by about 700, 800 DPS, so that might be worthwhile to explore. I'm still using Fel Storm because I'm getting used to it, but eventually I'm going to be cutting that out on fights where I know the script leads to just single target. And then lastly, the Master Gear Swap. I think the Master Gear Swap is very broken and important. It is a pain in the butt though, especially if you have tough teammates. So just know if you're in a group that's prone to ass pulling, to save yourself the frustration and not even do it. Although if you want the extra damage, I highly recommend it. Hey everyone, thanks for making it to the end of the video. If you have any tips to share or questions, make sure you check out the community in Discord. There's Warlocks talking there a lot and love to talk about the class and theory crafting things, or leave a comment below and let me know if I missed something. I'm going to be making more videos about Warlock and other things about Cataclysm in the future. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. I'll see you at the next one. Peace.